Our families came to Australia as refugees after the war. At that time, I think almost half the immigrant intake in Australia were refugees. To put it in context, today it's around 11% of refugees. So attitudes have changed. I was born in Budapest in 1946. In October 1948, on a Thursday, my father was told he was going to be arrested on Saturday. He'd had a pretty hard war and was one of the few who managed to survive, as did my mother. And he decided that it was enough. He'd had enough of totalitarian regimes and we were leaving. And through my mother's father's connections, we were sent into the country near the Austrian border and eventually contacted people smugglers who put us up for 3 days and nights, and then attempted to cross into Austria. My mother was given fake documents. The night we were leaving, I was drugged, and we set off through the woods. After about a couple of hours climbing the hills, some lights were seen. The smugglers panicked and left us in the dark, and my parents continued not knowing where they were until luckily, fortuitously, they bumped into a patrol of Austrian soldiers. Now the soldiers said, "We can't accept you, you have to," because at that time the Cold War was starting, and they said, you'll have to turn around and go back, we're not allowed to take you anywhere. My father said, "Shoot us, we're not going back." And the soldiers, after some consideration, said, "Well, if you follow us, we're going to pass by a village where you might get some help." And so my parents started following these soldiers, and eventually, after falling into a river and other hardships, at 3 a.m. in the morning, our family was taken in by a woman who Dad knocked on the door and said, "Please help us." I give you that story because my father threatened to kill us all, or to have us killed if we can't go back. We were using people smugglers. We had false documents, and we broke the law in leaving. So we were sensitive to the stories of what a refugee experience is like. My parents were very good people. They built a successful business in Australia, they employed people, and they were very good to people. So when Tampa happened, and Peter Reith started talking about these diabolical people who were threatening to throw their children overboard if they couldn't come to Australia, and that they were using false papers, and that they were lying, I thought, well, yeah, but they're desperate. I know that story. That doesn't make them bad people or give us a reason not to try and help them.